all my strength to push my husband out of the way, but I was the one who got hit and ended up in a vegetative state. The driver who caused the accident was Angela Snow, the woman my husband had secretly loved for so long. He forgave her right there in court, then went to the hospital to pull out my breathing tube. After I died, he didn't show the slightest bit of grief. Instead, he quickly married Angela and had a child with her. When I was reborn on the very day of the accident, I decided I would never save him again. In my past life, after I died, Ethan Carter knelt at my grave and cried bitterly. I foolishly thought he was mourning out of guilt, but instead he said, "Thank you for taking the accident for me, so my life could return to its proper track and I could go back to the true love of my life." My soul floated above, burning with hatred, cursing myself for not being able to charge forward and strangle that bastard to death. I never imagined that when I opened my eyes again, I would be back on the very day of the accident. "Lily, hurry up, the movie's about to start." My mind went blank for a few seconds, but very quickly I realized that I had truly come back to the day I was hit and forced into a vegetative state. But this time, I would not push Ethan Carter away like before. This time, I wanted to see with my own eyes how my husband, the choreographer, would have his leg broken by the very woman he worshipped and be left paralyzed, living a life worse than death. At that moment, Ethan stood against the light, his beautiful almond-shaped eyes gazing at me, the corners of his lips lifted in a smile. Those affectionate eyes had once whispered words of love to me every day. I truly believed that his love for me was genuine, until in my last life I discovered just how cold-blooded he really was. After orchestrating my downfall, he not only testified in court that I had violated traffic safety rules while crossing the street, but also stood as the victim's family member to read a plea for leniency for the offender. Even more hateful, he accompanied Angela Snow to the hospital to remove my breathing tube, all because she was his unforgettable ex-girlfriend, his so-called white moonlight. Angela Snow acted heartbroken in front of him, crying day after day until she grew thin, which softened Ethan's heart and led him to marry her. He even used my money to buy her a house. Looking back on it now, I can only laugh at how pathetic I was. In my past life, when Ethan's career plummeted, this same Angela abandoned him to go abroad and attach herself to a rich man. Meanwhile, I stayed with him through hunger and hardship until he finally managed to become a dance teacher with some small reputation. Later, on my birthday, I once bought myself an expensive designer lipstick. He sneered at how costly it was. Thinking back now, it wasn't that it was too expensive, it was that he thought I wasn't worth it. I'll never forget the day when he heard the price of that lipstick. His face immediately darkened in front of the sales clerk, his teeth clenched as he spat out, "Spending money like that? How the hell are we supposed to survive?" People say without comparison there is no pain, and whether someone loves you or not is actually very clear. If a man refuses to spend money on you, no matter what excuses he gives, the truth is that he doesn't love you. Lily. Seeing me stand there in a daze, Ethan called me again impatiently. I didn't want to pay him any attention. I turned my head to look around, and that was when I saw a white car speeding toward the intersection. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. The one who had left me in a vegetative state and made me die in resentment had finally appeared. Only this time, I wasn't going to rush forward to push Ethan Carter away. "Lily, what are you spacing out for? Ethan Carter's irritated urging hadn't even finished when, as he stepped into the street, the car slammed into him, knocking him to the ground. Its wheels mercilessly crushed his legs. Crack, crack. That was the sound of bones being pulverized. This time, the one who got hit was Ethan Carter. For some reason, that sound felt strangely pleasant to my ears. Why not? In my past life, didn't Ethan Carter cry and thank me for letting his life go back on track, for allowing him to be reunited with the woman he loved most? In this life, I would be a good person to the very end. I would send him and his true love all the way to the Western paradise. Break every barrier for them. Only Ethan Carter, when your legs are shattered like this, when you're left crippled, will your so-called true love still be able to love you? His leg injuries were so severe that I heard the emergency doctor say the only way to save his life was to amputate. Just like in my previous life when he pulled out my breathing tube, This time I didn't hesitate to sign the consent form for surgery. After signing, I even gripped the doctor's hand with excitement. "Cut it off, doctor. Let's take it from the thigh. If that's not enough, cut at the waist. Wherever you need to cut, just save my husband." In recent years, Ethan Carter had made a bit of a name for himself in the field of traditional dance. He had studied since he was a child, winning countless awards, and everyone in the industry spoke highly of him. They predicted he would become one of the country's top dancers. Ethan himself believed it, which was why he always took such care of his legs, even using the expensive masks I bought to wrap them. But now, a rising star of dance had lost his legs and would never again stand on stage. Just thinking about it, I almost felt sorry for him. Imagining Ethan's despair when he woke up, I smiled. This was the debt he owed me. 2 days later, after resuscitation, Ethan woke. Before he could figure out where he was, he tried to sit up but realized he could no longer feel his legs. Only when I told him we had to amputate to save his life did his eyes redden, his hands trembling, unable to flex. I stared at his expression of utter despair. Ethan suddenly burst out, "Why was it me who got hit?" "Honey, what are you saying?" I looked straight at him. He flinched under my gaze, looking away for an instant before meeting my eyes again, his look sharp as he asked, "Lily, why didn't you cross the intersection like you were supposed to?" "Honey, it was all my fault. If I hadn't been scared in that moment, I would have rushed forward and pushed you out of the way. Then your legs wouldn't have." Tears welled up as I spoke off topic, dodging his question and steering the conversation back to his amputated legs. As I expected, Ethan no longer had the heart to press me. He dropped his head to stare at the empty space below his waist and sank into boundless despair. But I believed it wouldn't be long before he accepted himself like this. Time would wear down his unwillingness, just as it had worn me down in my past life. After the amputation, Ethan's temperament grew erratic. He stopped talking, stopped eating, and at the slightest displeasure hurled whatever was within reach. Except for me, he refused to see anyone else. Playing the part of the dutiful wife, I of course devoted myself to caring for him, showing my gentleness and attentiveness. I even cooked his favorite dish, braised pork belly, the special way he liked it. When Ethan saw the burn marks on my hands from cooking for him, he looked at me with emotion and said, "Honey, how could you be so careless? Does it hurt?" Ethan Carter asked. "No, it doesn't. As long as you can eat a little, something this small means nothing to me," I said. Ethan looked deeply moved and ate a lot. It wasn't that I didn't want to kick this bastard out of my sight, but my marriage to Ethan Carter involved far too many interests. We jointly owned a media company, but when the company was founded, I was the only one who invested capital. Every commercial performance Ethan got back then was because I worked hard to wine and dine people, building the connections that made them possible. His students' parents were all influential people. Even his famous dance, Peacock of the Southeast, was something I had gone to great lengths to arrange by inviting 10 retired veteran artists to choreograph privately for him. After Ethan gained some reputation, our company began signing contracts with several artists. He retreated to become a choreographer, and we shifted toward the entertainment industry, finding more and more opportunities. Even though if we divorced now, I could take half of the assets, it still wouldn't be enough. Ethan no longer had his legs. If I left him at this moment, it would only give him the chance to play the victim, and I might end up being attacked online and falling into ruin. Having lived through one life already, I was determined not to suffer any losses this time. I would definitely kick this scumbag out, and the company would be mine alone. Ethan had been in the hospital for 2 months. This was the perfect chance for me to return and take control. Using the excuse that the company couldn't go a day without someone managing it, I found a reason to go back and handle things in Ethan's stead. The artists had all been managed by me before, so taking over was easy. But to fully draw them to my side, I needed an opportunity. As I was thinking about how to win everyone over, someone unexpectedly walked right into my trap. That afternoon, while I was discussing the company's development with Ethan Carter, the hospital room door suddenly swung open, and a figure rushed in. Seeing that face, I frowned. So she had come, the ex-girlfriend Ethan could never forget, Angela Snow. Angela acted as if she didn't even see me, pushing past me to throw herself straight into Ethan's arms, pressing her head against his chest. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't mean to. Can you please not press charges against me? Please, I'm begging you," she sobbed. Angela cried loudly, and Ethan sat there stunned, blurting out, "Wife, don't cry anymore." Startled, Angela forgot to cry. She lifted her tear-blurred face to look at Ethan, and I also looked at him. Ethan quickly released Angela, pushing her away awkwardly and trying to explain to me, I called the wrong name. Of course he hadn't called the wrong name. In my past life, hadn't he married Angela Snow as his wife? Seeing her crying now, he had momentarily forgotten he'd been reborn and instinctively called her wife. Ethan thought he was hiding it well, but he didn't know I'd long since realized he, too, had been reborn. He was just pretending, and I was pretending not to know because turning on him now wouldn't help me secure the assets I wanted. "Ethan." Angela's voice trembled with sobs. "Can you not sue me?" "I really didn't mean it." Ethan frowned. "I'm not suing you." Of course he wasn't. He was drowning in the pain of losing his legs, having forgotten who the driver was. I was the one who had sued Angela Snow. When Ethan was taken to the hospital, I had called the police and immediately hired a lawyer to press charges against the driver who caused the accident. Angela had received the lawyer's notice. There was no way she didn't know who had filed the suit. She clearly knew, but she had come straight here to beg Ethan instead. This woman always knew how to take shortcuts. She knew Ethan Carter couldn't forget her, and she begged him even faster than she begged me. In our past life, the driver who caused the accident didn't want to pay and didn't want to go to jail. She simply threw herself into Ethan's arms and clung to his rising career. Now in this life, she was trying the same trick again. "Ethan, please don't sue me. I'll compensate," she wailed. I smiled at that. If Miss Angela truly agreed to pay, then withdrawing the lawsuit would be easy. Ethan's face twisted in confusion. His mouth opened and then closed as if he wanted to defend Angela. I stared at him until he became flustered and looked away, no longer daring to speak. Angela, voice low, asked me how much she should compensate. "I'm not asking for much," I said. "My husband is a professional dancer, and you ruined his legs. Compensating 1.8 million yuan is not excessive, is it?" Angela Snow cried as she spoke. "I've lived abroad all these years and don't have much savings. Can I pay in installments? 500 yuan a month? I also have to take care of my mother." Her demeanor made it clear she didn't want to pay. I didn't blame her. According to the way she spoke, she would be paying me for the next 3 centuries. "Are you joking?" I said. "You can pay it all at once, or we'll see each other in court." Angela looked at me with a humiliated expression. Seeing I wouldn't relent, she trembled as if about to faint. Ethan immediately felt distressed and shouted at me, "Lily, how can you be so cruel? Snow has such a difficult family situation. Do you want to kill her? Withdraw the lawsuit. I won't pursue it anymore." They always used her formal name, White Lotus, but called her affectionately Snowy. Angela must have thought she could rely on Ethan's pity to escape responsibility. What a delusion. Angela Snow's parents divorced when she was little. Her disabled mother raised her, and life was truly hard. But she used her pretty face to latch onto rich boys. Otherwise, why had she abandoned Ethan when his career was failing before? After the accident in our past life, she seduced Ethan, lived the life of a wealthy wife, and no longer had to worry about day-to-day struggles or chase after other men. Could Angela really be willing to return to hardship? The comfortable life made her complacent. She began to fear I would wake up, take Ethan back, and take over the company. That fear is why she had plans to kill me. It was because she whispered sweet words into his ear day and night that Ethan went with her to the hospital and pulled out my breathing tube. This life I was determined to make Angela Snow pay. I looked at Ethan and firmly refused his request to withdraw the lawsuit. He had turned my husband into a cripple. A few hours of crying would not buy him my forgiveness. "Dream on." Angela saw I wouldn't budge and cried even louder in front of Ethan. "Get out. Get out now." I pretended to lose my temper, grabbed Angela's arm, and pulled her toward the door. "Stop, Lily," Ethan cried, heartbroken, wanting to protect the woman he loved most. But his legs were gone. How could he run to help her? He could only sit on the bed, helplessly watching me drag Angela out. "Lily, how can you be so rough? Shut the door!" Ethan shouted angrily, his eyes like bullets aimed at me. "You weren't like this before. Now you seem like a stranger." I really wanted to tell him why roses are red and the sky is blue, money and hatred. I was only holding back my performance of kindness. I was pretending to cry. "Everyone makes mistakes," I said, lowering my head but keeping my eyes locked on Ethan Carter, tears shimmering as I accused him. "Who's the one who's really changed here? Because you lost your legs, look at what you've done, starving yourself, smashing things, shutting everyone out. Yet when you found out Angela Snow was the one who caused the accident, you didn't pursue her. You still can't let her go, can you? Even though she broke the legs you were proud of your whole life, as long as she cries in front of you a few times, suddenly I'm the villain, isn't that right?" Seeing my suspicion, Ethan's demeanor softened. "Honey, I just thought, after all, we used to know each other. We're not short of money. Really, Lily, you have to believe me. I only love you." Now he was flattering me, but it was only because he hadn't yet figured out Angela's intentions. He was afraid she would see him as a cripple, and he'd lose both her and me at once. If I hadn't been reborn, I surely would have been deceived by this appearance of deep affection. Luckily, heaven had opened my eyes. I would make them pay a heavy price. After Angela left, a new friend request suddenly popped up on Ethan's phone. I pretended not to notice. I didn't have to guess who it was. The White Lotus was as persistent as ever. When her pity play didn't work, she started contacting Ethan secretly. True to form, Ethan didn't disappoint me. He accepted the request without hesitation. Watching his expression, I could tell just how deep their connection still was. But I only cared about one thing: winning over the people at the company. The company could go to that scumbag, but the people could not. While Ethan and Angela were busy rekindling their old love, trouble broke out at my company. Our leading male artist was exposed in a same-sex scandal. The other party had prepared everything carefully, directly releasing photos and videos as evidence. Even with emergency PR, the storm didn't subside. The gossip spread wider and even exposed the private lives of those who had worked with him. For the sake of appearances, Ethan immediately told the PR department to prepare a statement to terminate the contract with Tyler Young. But I stopped him in time. "Lily, do you have a way to handle this?" Ethan asked, confused. "I don't have a plan yet, but I believe in Tyler," I said. "I have to protect him." Ethan thought I was just trying to keep a money-making pillar of the company and was moved for a moment, but he didn't know that for me this was an opportunity, a perfect chance to win hearts. No matter how hard it would be, I had to protect Tyler, and more importantly, I knew he was innocent. I threw myself into proving Tyler's innocence, and thankfully, it wasn't in vain. I quickly gathered evidence that our competitor had framed him. Meanwhile, the affair between that vile pair was moving along quickly. As the considerate, understanding wife, I didn't interfere. Instead, I worked even harder to create opportunities for them to be together. If there weren't opportunities, I made them, so their affair could blossom and bear fruit as soon as possible. After all, the depth of their relationship was an important factor in my plan to divorce Ethan Carter. 2 months passed. The court ruled that Angela Snow had to pay me 1.8 million yuan in compensation. That night, Ethan's phone practically exploded. WeChat messages pinged non-stop, but he didn't reply. Calls from the other end came one after another. "Honey, who's that? Why aren't you answering?" I set down my chopsticks and pretended to be curious, watching him. Ethan nervously turned his phone to silent and flipped it face down. "Just a scam call," he said. "Honey," I said sweetly, "today Tyler's situation was cleared up. Everyone wants to hold a celebration party, so I might be home late. Just rest early, okay?" I said. Ethan's eyes lit up like headlights. When I stood and turned my back, I saw him flip his phone over and reply on WeChat. No sooner had I left the house than Ethan called his driver and went out. Checking the company tablet that had location access, I scrolled through their recent messages. It made my stomach turn. I opened Angela Snow's chat. The newest message was a photo of a lightly cut wrist with the caption, "Goodbye to the one I love most." "Ethan, are you staging a melodrama over 1.8 million yuan? Committing suicide for money?" "Angela Snow would never have the guts," I muttered. though Ethan was easy to fool with this act. Surely tonight Angela would succeed in sleeping with him and thus dodge paying compensation. If Angela was truly determined, I wouldn't hesitate. If force was needed, I'd use it. When food is set before a cat, you can't bear to snatch it away. I needed to help her become Mrs. Carter sooner rather than later. I took out my phone and called the private detective I'd hired earlier to check on Ethan and Angela. The detective sounded surprised that I asked so directly. "They've already gone into a room," he said. "Okay. Make sure you record video for me." After I hung up, I couldn't help laughing. Talk about someone handing me proof of their own infidelity while I was still half asleep. I was busy thinking about how to use this to get a divorce from Ethan. Sincere thanks to this lovey-dovey couple for delivering evidence into my hands. The next morning, Angela came straight to the company looking for me, clutching this year's newest LV bag and wearing lambskin high heels, strutting into my office with swagger as if she'd forgotten how pathetic she'd looked before. She tossed a bank card onto my desk with contempt. "Here's 1.8 million, she said with a sly smile. "One night, and you get 1.8 million. Miss Ha, you're worth it." "What nonsense are you talking?" Angela tried to protest, but I slapped her across the face hard enough to twist her features. "How was your performance last night? Lily, say something. I'll sue you," she shrieked, covering her face and trying to sound fierce. I didn't bother replying. I pulled up my phone and shoved it in front of her. If she hadn't been staring at the floor, she'd have seen the breaking news. Famous choreographer Ethan Carter suspected of cheating with his first love, Angela Snow. Below that were photos of the two of them kissing passionately in bed. I had even more shocking proof. The detective I'd paid was worth every penny. Each frame was high quality. I even suspected he'd been standing at the foot of their bed to film them. Angela's exhilarated face in those photos was plainly visible. "Photoshop," Angela stammered, suddenly exposed and frozen, her mouth repeating the word. At that moment, Ethan burst into the office in his wheelchair, hurriedly pushing the door open. He didn't care that Angela was sobbing like rain. He grabbed my hand and tried to explain anxiously. "Lily, I was framed. These are all Photoshop. You have to believe me." I shoved Ethan's hand away violently. "You're bedridden and you still expect to trick me? I set up the photographer and released the cheating news myself, Lily." I slapped Ethan hard across the face. He wasn't ready for it and toppled to the floor. His wheelchair slammed into his legs and the pain made him grit his teeth. That slap was for the old me who had chosen to stay beside him and gone blind in the last life. I rubbed my wrist. I couldn't have imagined how exhilarating it felt to see their true faces. Angela Snow hurried forward to help Ethan up, glaring at me with fury. "Lily, why don't you believe Ethan?" she spat. The two of them hadn't even seen a coffin before they were crying crocodile tears, so I pressed play on the computer. Very quickly, a high-definition video filled the projector screen opposite us. In the footage, Angela and Ethan were kissing passionately, unable to restrain themselves even on the wheelchair, and then began undressing each other. Seeing that, both Ethan and Angela's faces changed. "Stop the video, turn it off now," Angela shouted, hastily covering her naked body with her hands. In the clip, Ethan insisted he had been framed. "I didn't cheat on you, Lily. I never loved her. Get away from that crazy woman," he pleaded. But he didn't even have time to open his mouth before Angela, panic in her voice, pushed back, knowing that if she missed this chance, she might never become Mrs. Carter. "Lily, you need to know your place. Divorce Ethan and take this 1.8 million as your divorce fee. Take it and get out." Angela sneered, the smugness written all over her face. She thought she'd already won. I looked down at Ethan sitting back in his wheelchair. "What do you want to do?" I asked. "Lily, I've already wronged you. I can't wrong you and Snow both. Let's part peacefully and get a divorce," Ethan said. At last he stopped pretending. "Ethan," I staggered 2 steps back as I hugged him, tears streaming down my face, radiating a heartbreak so real anyone could see it. The office door had been left open by chance, and everyone in the company witnessed the scene. Ethan could no longer claim the title of leading man without reproach. Sure enough, the artists and outsiders watching shifted from curiosity to contempt when they looked at Ethan and Angela. This was exactly the effect I wanted. After Ethan's accident and the loss of his precious legs, many people had lamented for him. If I'd demanded a divorce immediately, public opinion might have criticized me. But now, under my devoted care, Ethan had been ungrateful and cheated. Public sentiment swung 180 degrees. I became the pitied one, abandoned by an ungrateful scumbag. To amplify my sorrow, I wiped my tears and, voice hoarse, said, "I agree to the divorce. You two get out of my sight right now." "You're the one who should leave, Lily," Angela Snow sneered, glancing at Ethan. I stared at Ethan. He was embarrassed and dared not meet my eyes, so I looked away. Then his voice came out steady. "Lily, you don't need to come to the company anymore from now on." I wasn't surprised by that answer. I smiled coldly. "Don't forget half the company is mine too. If you want it, take it, convert my shares to cash and pay me." Hearing me say she'd take the money, Angela became even more smug, grinning ear to ear as if she already foresaw how miserable my future would be. "Laugh all you want. There's a saying, the higher you stand, the harder you fall. I'm lifting you up now, so your fall will be devastating." Just as I was about to turn away, a tall, handsome figure appeared. "Sister Lynn, wherever you go, I'll go," he said. It was Tyler Young. After Ethan's accident, our company had leaned on him to keep things afloat. Tyler's mention of wanting to leave made Ethan's expression change immediately. After the last scandal, Tyler had become even more famous than Ethan. Ethan forced a smile, trying to keep Tyler Young from leaving, but before he could speak, Tyler cut him off coldly. "Lily has been with you for 3 years, enduring so much hardship. We've all seen it. After your accident, she was the one who stayed, caring for you, with everything she had. And now, just for this woman, you not only want to divorce her, but also throw her out of the company? If you can be this ruthless to the woman who shared your bed, what future do we have following you?" As he spoke, Tyler turned to look at the artists gathered at the door. Not long ago, when I was slandered, Mr. Carter thought I was hopeless and tried to terminate my contract. It was Lily who ran everywhere to find evidence and clear my name. I'm a veteran artist in this company, and even I was treated like that. Think for yourselves, what happens to you if you keep following him? Tyler's words struck directly at everyone's hearts. Several in the company had long harbored grievances against Ethan, and they immediately spoke up. "I'll follow Lily," said Hannah Wu, the second artist signed to the company. "Me too," said the third artist. Naturally, those who had good relationships with me all wanted to come as well. In no time, the majority of the company stood on my side. Ethan's face darkened as panic crept into his expression. More than anyone, he knew exactly how this company had been built. I kept my expression neutral, though inside I laughed coldly. "Ethan Carter, did you really think I went back to the company these last 2 months just to manage? I went back to win hearts. All of this was to make you end up alone today." "A bunch of ungrateful wolves," Ethan spat. "If you want to leave, then leave quickly. You're all so old. What are you proud of? The more who leave, the better. We'll just sign some fresh faces." Angela Snow, seeing how many had sided with me, shrieked her protest. But Ethan was not as optimistic as she was. He snapped at her to shut up. "Ethan." Angela tried to play weak again, but Ethan didn't budge. Seeing his displeasure, she finally held her tongue. Ethan drew a deep breath and turned to the group behind me. "If you leave now, you'll have to pay the penalty for breaking contract," he said with a smile, though it was really a threat. For a moment, silence fell. Everyone's faces showed hesitation, and the corner of Ethan's mouth curled upward in smugness. He knew that once profit was at stake, they would waver. "I'll cover the penalties," I said firmly, cutting off his triumph before it grew. At my words, all the artists who supported me lit up again with renewed determination. Ethan clenched his fists, unable to smile any longer, though he still pretended to be concerned. "Lily, that's not a small amount of money." "I'll sell my shares," I said flatly. "That's enough to cover the penalties. The rest, transfer directly into my account." Without another glance, I led the core people away. The divorce between Ethan and me, entangled in too many interests, could only proceed through the courts. Because he had committed adultery, he was the guilty party, so I demanded compensation for emotional damages. Not only that, I also demanded the return of the 1.8 million yuan Ethan had given Angela Snow under the guise of marital assets. In the end, I not only reclaimed the money that belonged to me, but Angela also had to pay me another $1.8 million. Holding the divorce certificate in my hand, I hadn't even stepped out of the courthouse before I raised it high under the lights, snapped a photo, and posted it online. I posted the divorce certificate online with a caption welcoming my new life. I didn't even mention the messy relationship between me, Ethan Carter, and Angela Snow. The reporters dug up the entire adultery story and how they'd pushed me out of the company all by themselves. Ethan and Angela were tormented by public outrage, trending on Hot Search for 7 days straight. Ethan's company suffered a scandal too. The stock plunged overnight, wiping out millions. That night, Ethan called me like a man possessed. By the 18th ring, I slowly answered. "Lily, those photos and articles, you posted them on purpose, didn't you?" He snarled over the line, sounding like he wanted to crawl through the phone and bite me. I swirled my wine glass, glanced at the ticker showing his shares still falling, and said mildly, "I was just celebrating getting rid of trash. What's wrong with that?" I then silenced him for a few seconds. "You had to be ruthless to me like that? Didn't you ever consider what we had?" I wanted to slap him. Who cheated with Angela Snow? Twice in 2 lives she'd pushed me to the edge. Now he was playing the victim and lecturing me about feelings. What a joke. What feelings did we have? Was it me drinking until I had a stomach bleed to keep him contracts, or him cheating and pushing me out of the company? I set my glass down hard. "Ethan, what right do you have to talk about feelings with me?" I said. He raged. "Lily, don't get cocky. Wait and see. The scumbag will be exposed." I didn't want to hear him shout, so I hung up and blocked his number. A few days later, I negotiated an endorsement deal for Tyler Young. We were due to sign today. But when we arrived at the company gate, the client suddenly changed their mind. "Miss Lily, we're very sorry. We've already signed this ad contract with someone else." "What do you mean?" "Yesterday, you said you'd sign with us," Tyler snapped, angry. I patted his shoulder to calm him. Sudden changes were infuriating, but you can't offend capital. The partner rep looked awkward and said the contract had already been signed. Ethan, shoved forward by Angela, smirked and said, "Is this the new company you chose? Terrible business sense. Even a roasted duck could fly away." Angela looked at me with mocking contempt. Tyler clenched his fists in anger. I gripped his arm to stop him from acting rashly. "Blame me if anyone," I said. "She's the one who made a joke of both me and Snowy and stole your contract behind your back. Just treat it as a small lesson." Ethan shot me a challenging smile. I knew he had no shame, but I'd never seen anyone this brazen. I wanted to rush forward and slap him, but I held back. Hitting someone is illegal, and he wasn't worth it. Besides, even a small contract handed to him might not last. But Ethan behaved like a rabid dog. Every deal I negotiated for Tyler was brazenly stolen by him. Not because he had better resources, but because he undercut prices. Unprincipled competition. After Ethan grabbed 3 of my contracts, Tyler was furious enough to want to take a knife to him. I calmed him down immediately. If that company was trying to make things difficult for me on purpose, we'd settle both old and new debts with them together. It's cold outside and unscrupulous men and women will soon be ruined anyway. "Do you really want me to take this script?" Tyler asked. That day I took Tyler Young to meet a TV drama director. By the time we arrived, it was just the 2 of us in the car. Tyler couldn't hold back his doubts. "But I heard this script hasn't even been approved by the Film Bureau. There aren't any investors, and the role doesn't look good either." Tyler had been in the industry for years, so he had his own sources and network. According to him, the script was trash, not worth accepting. "It is trash," I admitted with a faint smile, "but others don't know that." "I do." Tyler looked stunned. "Then why are you still letting me take it?" "I brought you here to act," I said. "To act? You mean pretend?" "That's right." I switched off my phone and explained patiently. "I think there's a mole in our company. Otherwise, how could Ethan Carter know exactly which company to poach from every time I close a deal for you? If Ethan wants to steal resources based on my moves, then I'll use his tactics against him. I'll dig a hole so deep he'll fall and shatter into pieces." Tyler was smart. He quickly understood my plan and cooperated well at the audition, even acting eager for the role. When I signed the contract with the director, Ethan struck right on cue, snatching the project from me. "Oh, I'm sorry," he sneered. "The contract you worked so hard for ended up in my hands again." On the signing day, he even brought the contract over to flaunt it. Angela Snow came too. "Lily," she said smugly, "I heard your company hasn't landed a single contract lately. This project was your biggest hope, wasn't it? Tsk, and now it's gone. Guess you'll be living on the cold north wind for the rest of the year." "Poor thing. Though I hear the north wind's full of car exhaust too, not great for your health." I clenched my fists in silence while Ethan grew more arrogant. "Lily, I don't actually need this contract," he taunted. "But looking back at all the years you worked like a mule building my company, I could grant you a favor. If you kneel down, I'll let you have it." "How about it?" Angela added fuel. "Ha! Lily, don't act so high and mighty. Just kneel, it's a small price for a contract." I shot back. "And you, Angela, you're not high and mighty either, are you? After all, just one night got you 1.8 million. That shut her up, fuming with no words. After Ethan signed the drama contract for one of his own, he stopped fighting me for resources, focusing all his energy on this project because he believed it would explode in popularity. And why did he think that? Because of me. I had more than once pretended to be drunk and acted like I valued this script highly, even saying repeatedly in the company that, if it were up to me, I'd invest my entire fortune into it. The mole passed every word straight to Ethan. Ethan, with no brains of his own, believed it and poured all his money into the project. I waited until the show wrapped, then dropped the plagiarism scandal of the original novel onto hot search. The novel was pulled, and the drama adapted from it was barred from airing due to copyright issues. All of Ethan's investment went up in smoke. His company collapsed overnight under massive debt and declared bankruptcy. Ethan and Angela had to sell their villa to pay compensation and were forced to move into a filthy, run-down old house. That was the year I finally exposed the mole. After Ethan Carter clawed his way next to me only to lose everything, I handed Tyler Young a web drama with 2 male leads. At the time, Ethan mocked me, saying I was out of resources and could only get streaming dramas for my artists. But the moment the drama aired, it exploded. Tyler went from a third-rate star to an A-lister overnight. With Tyler's influence, every time he landed a role, I made sure to bring in a few more of our company's actors. Even if they were added later, their acting was solid and the directors were satisfied. Gradually, the talent under my wing all flourished, earning more and more contracts in the industry. As they grew, so did the company's profits. To celebrate our meteoric success, I booked a year-end party at a well-known restaurant near the office. But as soon as I arrived, I spotted Angela Snow, perched on the lap of an old man, old enough to be her grandfather. With her scarlet lips and pale arms wrapped around his neck, she clung to him as if she wanted to melt into him. Wasn't she supposed to be with Ethan Carter? And who was this? Tyler, noticing too, asked curiously, "Who's the guy with her?" By then I hardly paid attention to Ethan and Angela anymore, though I still heard bits and pieces. After Ethan's bankruptcy, he still tried to make a comeback, borrowing heavily from loan sharks to open a new company, but all his attempts failed. Life became more miserable, and debt collectors harassed and threatened him constantly. Seeing he had no value left, Angela immediately latched onto someone else, Director Wong, the old man right in front of us. Everyone in the industry already knew about her and him. "Ethan, is this your so-called true love?" I almost laughed. His so-called deep love turned out cheaper than garbage. I was about to leave when Ethan suddenly wheeled himself in, rolling straight toward Angela and slapping her across the face. "You slut!" Angela's expression twisted. "You dare hit me?" She lashed out, kicking his wheelchair so hard he toppled to the ground. "Slut, ah!" Ethan struggled to stand, only for Angela's high heel to slam down on his hand. The veins popped up from the pain, and his screams echoed through the restaurant. "Useless cripple, you dare hit me? Believe me, I'll ruin your hand too." She pressed harder with her heel, until Ethan's shirt was soaked in sweat, his body limp as he lay on the floor. He looked up at her with a heartbroken gaze. "I divorced her because of you. How could you treat me like this? Did I tell you to divorce her? You just couldn't control yourself. Pathetic," Angela spat, glaring at him with contempt. Ethan tried to get up again, but she kicked him hard in the side. His head smashed against the table, blood pouring down, causing chaos in the restaurant. He collapsed unconscious on the spot. Angela didn't even glance back. Disgusted, she wiped the hand he had touched and then linked arms with the old man, strolling into the hotel across the street. The restaurant manager, fearing a scandal, called an ambulance to take Ethan away. And just like that, the curtain closed on this pathetic play. "Serves him right," Tyler said bluntly, almost clapping in celebration. "He let a good woman like you slip away and chose Angela Snow. He asked for this, every bit of it. Serves him right." Ethan truly had wasted his second chance at life. He lost his career, lost his legs, and even his so-called true love ran off with an old man. Looking at his pitiful state, I felt elated, and because I was in such a good mood, I handed out red envelopes to every employee at the company so we could all celebrate. When Tyler dropped me off, it was already 1 a.m. As I got out of the car, I saw Ethan waiting at my doorstep. Under the moonlight, he had a bandage wrapped around his forehead, and his lips were pale, as if he'd just left the hospital. "What are you doing here?" I hadn't finished the question when Tyler stepped behind me and put himself between us to protect me. "Mr. Carter, the person who hurt her is not welcome here." Ethan didn't look at Tyler, he only looked at me, choking out, "Lily, I was wrong. I wasn't a good man. I let a good wife like you slip away. I was deceived by Angela." Then he began slapping his own face over and over. The sound of his palms against skin echoed continuously. Tyler and I exchanged bewildered looks. So he only remembered how good Lily was after Angela left him? Tyler's face darkened as he warned Ethan, "Stop having those thoughts. Don't even think about Lily." Ethan paid Tyler no mind. He fixed his gaze on me, and I patted Tyler's shoulder to tell him to step back and let me speak. Tyler frowned, but yielded. "Lily, you know I love you. You're the best to me," Ethan said, his eyes lighting up as he grabbed my hand. I pulled my hand away coldly. Ethan blinked in confusion. "Don't call my name. You're not worthy," I said, looking at him with growing chill in my voice. "Lily, you know I hate myself for cheating with Angela Snow, but I had reasons," Ethan began, reaching for my hand, but my cold stare made him withdraw. "In our last life, when you had the accident and were in a coma for 3 years, only Angela Snow stayed by my side. You would never have expected that the woman who loved you in the past life would treat you so indifferently now. Because my past life marital feelings with her still existed, I wanted to protect her, so I did those awful things to you." Ethan's voice got louder with anger as he spoke, but I only watched him coolly. "Lily, if I say this you'll think I'm lying, but believe me, I think you came back to life?" Ethan said, astonished. "Yes," I replied with a smile that wasn't really a smile, because I came back to life too. In that moment, Ethan's pupils shook. Standing in the moonlight, his face went completely white. "Ethan Carter, you pulled my breathing tube out with your own hands in our past life, didn't you?" I didn't need to hide anymore. I wanted to stab this scumbag through the heart. "Ethan, you're pathetic. Twice you chose Angela Snow, and both times it ended badly. Even in the past life, the child wasn't yours. Maybe this is your karma." Ethan was horrified by my words and frantically asked, "What are you saying? The child wasn't mine?" "What do you mean?" "In the last life, though I was a vegetable, I heard everything outside. Angela had said plainly that the child wasn't his, but belonged to her and her ex-boyfriend. The child looked less and less like him. She was afraid he would find out, so she conspired with the doctor, her ex, to poison him so he'd drown." Ethan stood there stunned. The truth was too cruel. I took a step forward to watch his reaction, and he suddenly burst into a manic laugh. No wonder I felt dizzy the day I knocked Angela. That bitch, really a bitch. The next morning when I sobered up, there was no sign of Ethan. After that, I poured all my energy into getting money. Tyler confessed his feelings for me, but I only treated him like a younger brother. I never saw Ethan Carter again after that night. 2 months later, someone discovered a woman's body while fishing at the reservoir. When the authorities confirmed the identity, it turned out to be Angela Snow, the woman who had vanished with Ethan. When she was found, her face was pale, her once beautiful features slashed open, her tongue cut out. She had died a miserable, brutal death. Not long after, Ethan was hunted down by the police. She deserved to die, he ranted. She made me lose the one I loved most. She made me lose my legs. She made me end up like this. She deserved it. Deserved it. Ha ha ha. Watching that unfold, I couldn't help but sigh. It had taken 2 lifetimes for Ethan Carter to finally realize who truly loved him, but it was far too late. None of it had anything to do with me anymore. I looked out the window, knowing my future would be bright,